On the journey of life, there are times when we feel like we are stagnating, and other times we feel uninspired and unmotivated, and as such, we keep procrastinating on our plans. How then shall we deal with stagnancy in life? And joining us to talk about this important topic is Modupe Akinsion. She is a life coach and motivational speaker. So thank you for joining us this morning to talk about the issue of stagnancy. I mean, it's you can think about it in many different ways. Right. You started the year in January and you were fired up, motivated. Maybe you went to church and they said, "Oh, it's going to be a great year for you," and you're happy, you're excited. 2018, and now we're in April, and then you just feel like everything is either slowing down or has completely stopped. What should you do when you feel this way?
Okay, thank you so much, Yomi, for that question. And I think it's a relevant topic at this time. I mean, the Q1 2018 just ended, and a lot of people are maybe not where they desired or expected to be. You know, but to talk about the concept of stagnancy, I need to ask myself, what exactly is stagnancy, right? It means, you know, little growth or no growth at all, like you said earlier. Or maybe you're not even moving at all, you know, and also you need to ask yourself, why am I not moving? So at what point did I break down? So if I look at a car, for instance, you know, you're on top motion and then all of a sudden your car just stops. The first thing you want to be concerned about is the engine, because the engine is what drives the car. Right. So if I want to look at the context of stagnancy, I need to check my engine from time to time as a human being. You know, sometimes we come up with dreams, with aspirations, with growth plans, but then our minds are not strong enough to carry those things. So you start the year running on top speed and then you get grounded. You need to go back. So the mind is the engine. The mind is the engine. Right. Right. And I can say the spirit because there's a spiritual aspect to everything we do. But then you see a lot of people these days, they pray, they go to church or whatever religion they practice, but then they're not moving forward. And so the question is, where is the place of God, or where is my own place as an individual? I mean, the truth is, God has done everything he has to do, or he needs to do for us. The question is, do we have the capacity in our mind to actually birth the dreams that we have inside us? So what's the state of your mind? That's the first place to start from. All right. So, I mean, I like that you're bringing in God and spirituality into this, but we'll talk about that a little later on. Now, it's Monday. Let's focus on the job aspect of it. There are certain people who maybe they've been on the job for some years, 2 years, 5 years, some even 10 years, and they feel like they need a change because they feel stagnated, but for some reason they just feel paralyzed as well. So maybe there's a little bit of fear. They haven't really, they've never really faced the outside world, as it were. So they've been stuck in this thing, and they're afraid of change. How do you deal with a situation where you are unable to move from one level to another? You know, fear is one of the greatest things that gets people grounded. The fear of the unknown, fear of rejection. What if I try and I fail? Fear of failure. Right. All right. So a lot of people get stuck. They are comfortable in their comfort zone. They are unsure of what steps to even take. You know, Isaac Newton's law of motion, and I'm going to bring that because I'm an engineer by background. Yeah. And it says a body will continue in a uniform state of motion or rest unless it is acted upon by an external force. A lot of times, what we require to jumpstart that journey of growth is that we need an external force, excuse me, and not just any force, is a force greater than you. So if I need to get myself moving, I'm not going to look for someone who is at the same level of weakness in mind as I am. I'm supposed to look for something superior that's going to push me forward in the right direction. So a lot of times you find out people get stuck, but then they are not seeking help, or they are not willing to pay the price. All right? It's not going to be comfortable for you. I mean, there's something called inertia in science, which says it's a resistance to motion. So each time you want to start, you find out you're stopping. All right? So you need a greater force to push you. It can be in form of getting inspired by someone. It can be in form of getting a coach or getting a mentor, or having people who have gone ahead in that particular journey you aspire, you know, to pursue, to help you make that initial move. Yeah, so I mean, talking about this initial move, sometimes maybe I can't find a mentor, or maybe I've read some books and it doesn't look like I'm sufficiently motivated. Sometimes you talked about an outside force. Right. How about a situation where somebody eventually loses his job, that maybe he's
he's been holding on to for such a long time, and then suddenly loses his job. Is that a strong enough force for me to then pursue my dream or do what I'm supposed to do?
I mean, the interesting thing about life is people can get inspired from even the negative circumstances. Right. We've had cases where people get fired from work, and that's the jolting. You know, that's when it dawns on them, oh my goodness, so what have I done with these past years of my life? And then they're beginning to think in the right direction. So, of course, like you said, I mean, it's not always the positive thing sometimes. Sometimes people leverage unfair. I mean, I wrote something over the weekend. I said we sometimes may only discover how courageous we are when we begin to face our fears, all right? So sometimes it takes those things. It takes maybe a father dying, and then you wake up and realize all along, I'd put all my eggs in one basket. I mean, I'd always relied on this job as my source of income. So I begin to think, oh, how else can I make money? Why? Because the job has been taken from me, you know? So sometimes those circumstances help, but then we don't need to wait to lose our job to wake up. A lot of people are on autopilot mode. They just wake up, go Zoom, come back Zoom, you know, without really thinking, is there more to me? What else can I do? How can I aspire for more? You know, so we need to constantly have those engagements or even discussions with ourselves. So we seek help before it's too late.
All right, so let's talk about we're talking about stagnancy now, but there's also the role of patience,
right,
and the waiting period where maybe you're waiting to achieve your dreams or something like that. Now, how do you know the difference between, okay, this is the moment when I'm waiting, and stagnancy or inertia, like you're saying, where you're just laid back and you just, what will be kind of situation. So how do you differentiate between that and then be patient enough to be able to wait for your time as well?
Patience doesn't mean idleness. Waiting doesn't mean sleeping and expecting a miracle to happen. It actually means taking consistent and constant action till you get to that place where, you know what, you just, let me use the colloquial, you just blow. You get it? So patience is not being docile, it's not being passive about your journey. It's actually, you can be in that place where all you're doing is even asking yourself. I mean, a lady was with me yesterday and she said to me, I mean, it was in October last year that my light bulb moment started to happen. You know, I began to question, said up until last year, I'd never asked myself why I'd been doing or taking the decisions I've been taking, you know, and then it's dawning on now, like, you know what, I've been making investments in things that I do not have long-term plans for. And so the things I truly desire and I'm passionate about, I've neglected them and investing in uncertainties. So sometimes it could be you asking yourself those questions. Now, she hasn't, you know, she's not really where she wants to be, but she's not where she used to be. Now, the difference that can make, I mean, that can happen within that period of waiting can be that your awareness, you know, you're jolted back to reality. Oh my goodness, I need to take charge now. And that can be the change you begin to take gradually till you get to that place, they call it the tipping point, where everything, you're just so prepared, the opportunity shows up and then you find out you're ready. As against, they said change will happen, and then, who is with my change? Oh, give me my change, or where did my change go to, and all that, you know. So that's not what we're talking about. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the other side of this, especially with young people. When you start your career, there are many different options. And sometimes you just get impatient with different things because you don't want to be stagnant and you don't want to be stuck in one thing. And you find yourself doing so many different things at the same time. And, you know, so you start something 3 months after, or 6 months after, sometimes even 1 year after, it's not working, you move on to the next thing. It could be a business, it could be a job or whatever it is, but you just find yourself constantly moving because you're trying to avoid stagnation. Maybe because you've seen your parents being stagnated. Maybe your father was stuck on the job for 35 years and then they sacked him anyway. So, you know, you don't want to be stuck in that kind of situation. And so you're impatient and you just continue to move and move and move and move and move.
Absolutely.
And then you're not really grounded in any one thing. How do you deal with that?
Okay, so I will tell that young person, you know, to say, you know what, you need to have a reason for doing what you're doing. Now, there is nothing wrong with being a serial entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with you failing at many attempts. But as long as you're picking something each time you start and you stop, you're finding out how not to do certain things. So the next time you do something else, it's with an increased level of awareness and a consciousness of what I don't want the mistake of yesterday to happen today. So what do I need to do differently? Now, the truth is that person may just be setting himself up for an opportunity he or she may not be aware of. So I'm not going to say, stop, but I will say, you know what, there's got to be a why behind your actions. You need to ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm afraid my life is going to turn out like my father's life turned out? That will not be a good motivation. It should be that, you know what, yes, I saw that picture from my father. I do not want it repeated in my life. However, how can I ensure that I live a successful life? What does successful life mean for me? How do I ensure? Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I take a skill from here, I'm able to translate it to other things I eventually get to do, but then I will not relent in my effort in that which I'm actually gone in for finally, if you get what I mean. So if I say, for instance, I want to work as an HR person, because for me, I studied chemical engineering, but then I had a passion for human resources. And the first job I got was a receptionist role. Initially, I was panicky. Is this how my career is going to end up, and all that? But I had to talk to myself. Be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. But in everything with, prayer and thanksgiving, make your request known. So every day I'm telling myself I'm an HR person, I'm practicing as an HR. Guess what? An opportunity came within the organization. An HR analyst was swapped for my role as a receptionist because they saw excellence in what I was doing. They saw commitment in what I was doing, and I was made an HR analyst. That was before I went for NYC.
And then your life was changed from there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It's been, I'm sufficiently motivated now to wake up from my whatever stagnancy in any area of my life. And I'm sure people watching as well have been motivated. Thank you so much, Modupe Akinsian, for joining us this morning. And don't stay away for too long before the next time you show up again. All right, then.